Right. Excuse me. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to episode 4 or lesson 4 of September is Significant. I am Vernita White, your brilliant solutionist, and we're going to jump right in, making sure I can hear myself on all platforms. Right. Excuse me. Good morning, everyone. All right. There it is. All right. So, what's going on? All right, so we're gonna jump right in. And if you were watching my last one, I said that I was gonna do this rant about this thread I saw. I did the rant and I recorded. I was like, well, let me make this part of one of my podcast episodes. Did it? It was probably like 40 to 45 minutes of a rant. I was like, okay, great. And I went to go look at the footage. Only 24 minutes of it was recorded. So I was like, okay, I can't use that because it just stopped like in mid thought. So I was like, well, maybe I just need to get that off my chest for myself. Or I was like, okay, let me go back and I'll decide if I want to, do it again because I think it's an important topic. It was about the coaching industry. So I may go back and do it, but if you were looking for it, it is not up because I only had 24 minutes of it. All right. So it is a little bit is going to tie into what we're going to talk about today. You see the title "Stand on Your Story," and on YouTube you will see the title as "Stand on Your Story: When to Uplevel Self-Esteem versus Self-Confidence." And those are definitely two different things. There is some overlap, and I'm going to read the definition, and I'm going to talk about what you can focus on, the key data points that you can focus on, that 5% of the data, your statistical significance. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, go back and watch the welcome video and episode 1, where I dive into your p-value. Now, that is research language. If you scientific research language, but the practical side of that is there's so much that there are so many variables happening in our lives, and we're like, some of us don't even know where to start, where to up level, where to focus. And I'm telling you to focus on 5% of what you can change, of what you can control, so that you'll know whether your success or the outcomes that you desire, whether they happen by chance or they happen based on the things that you focus on, the things that you can control. And it's really only 5%. A lot of us want these quantum leaps and these massive results, and we think we have to do so much work to get there, and we don't. A lot of the research that we see, the story is being told based on 5% of the data. So I'm giving you uh, 12 key data points to track. So this one is how to track what you're telling yourself. So that's why I call it standing on your story. And you can actually track your self-esteem and your self-confidence. And so all of these are, I can talk about these at a deeper level, based on something I'm putting together for personal leadership, which I learned that from a coach because personal development really wasn't doing it for me. But personal leadership, your self-leadership, that is really what gets you to any level that you desire. And I think that that anchors the personal development so it doesn't feel so woo-woo. All right. So standing on your story, let me read this definition of when to uplevel your self-confidence and your self-esteem. Let me read you the definition of what I found. Easy Google search. Not that deep. There has been research studies that go in depth for both of those. And if you want to nerd out, just go start reading some studies and case studies about what, a lot of social scientists have found. I've done a little bit of this when I was doing my research in my dissertation, and on some other research projects, I've looked at this as well through the lens of a skill set, but we may talk about that a little bit later on. So, self-esteem and self-confidence, it says they do overlap, but they are different. Self-esteem refers to whether you appreciate and value yourself, hence self-esteem. Your self-esteem develops and changes as a result of your life experiences and interactions with other people. Self-confidence is belief in yourself and your abilities. So, self-esteem, how you see yourself, and how you see yourself is based on the things that you've gone through in life, whether you've overcome them or you're still under them, right? Self confidence is your your is belief in your skill set, your belief in your ability to do something. So many of us are out there looking for, oh, I want more confidence, I want more confidence. And what you're really telling yourself is, I want more belief in my abilities to do something. And that you can control. Self-esteem is what a lot of us are really going after when we say self-confidence. And that one takes a little bit more work. Self-esteem, from my personal experience and from research and from helping other people, is really about what you're telling yourself. Now, let me put this right on the top. If you're a believer in Christ, these two are the easiest things. And I'm saying this to myself, like, as I was thinking about this, I was like, I should not have this issue. I should not have any kind of issues. Oh, I forgot to. Well, it's okay. I forgot to record, but it's going on YouTube. I can download it later. Uh, yeah, I can do it later. So, I was like, oh man, this should not be it should not be an issue, because our identity, if you're a believer, is in Christ Jesus. And what we if we feel down on ourselves, that's fine, because we just look at what Jesus says about us and we adopt that. Same thing with our abilities. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. That means whatever I decide to do is not me technically, because I can do them through the power that Jesus Christ has given me. Now, we say that and we quote that, but a lot of us don't embody that. So first of all, as believers, we have the cheat code, so we should not be over here struggling, but we do, because we don't look at the practical side. Now, if you're not a believer, that doesn't mean that you can't have self-esteem and self-confidence. We just have an extra boost. Now, you might be saying, well, there are people out here who don't believe in God and they have a level of self-esteem and self-confidence, but this is why: because they focus on the things that they can't control. Like, we have a power, like, whether you believe in God or not, we have part of his DNA inside of all of us, right? So if people who don't believe, and let's say they believe in anything else, let's say the universe, the sky, the moon, whatever, something out, the little statue in their house, their belief in that thing is so strong, then they will that thing to them. Like the laws of God, which are the laws of the universe, they're going to work. So laws work regardless. That's the principle. It's just going to work, right? And the same thing with confidence. Like they go study something and learn that thing so well that it they're like, oh, I can learn that. I have control over that. Of course, I'm confident in that. Or I don't care what I've gone through. I don't care what people say about me. I believe in this so strongly in myself, then that's how I can show up and show forth and conquer. Can you have self-confidence with low self-esteem? Absolutely. People overcompensate for a lot of different things. A lot of people in business or sports or things that you can actually see the tangible success of something, that's because they focus so much on their ability without looking at their self-worth. Now, two things. For self-esteem, it is really about what are the stories you're telling yourself. And you can look at any category of your life. There are between 5 to 15 areas of your life that you can focus on. I suggest that you pick, I don't know, two or three at a time, or you can look at all of them and take an inventory. That's probably the best thing you should do. You should go rate yourself in, between 5 and 15 areas of your life. One easy thing is to just go search Wheel of Life and just look at some of those categories, and you can start there and just rate yourself. The ones that are you focus on, either you want to strengthen some, or you want some areas to be stronger, or you want some to strengthen certain areas. There are a lot of times, they say, well, focus on the areas that you have the lowest number in. That may not be true for you. That may not work for you. You could probably I don't want to say care less, but the area that you score low in may not be a priority for you. So you have to do what works best for you. But you pick about, let's say, two or three areas to start with, whether you got an 8 in it or you got a 2. Then you have to say, if I want to go to the next level, first you have to define what that next level looks like. Now, remember when I said way back in lesson 1, all of this is filtered through your vision. I don't want you to go through this series with these just isolated pockets of information. When you're focusing on self-esteem and self-confidence, I am asking you to focus on your vision. So the vision that you've had for yourself, and then you can go write out some goals that are attached to that, and go back through the lessons that we talked about. Now, who do you need to become? to fulfill that vision or to hit those goals, and what skill set or abilities that you need to up level or learn. So that's self-esteem and self-confidence. So don't just go pick random stuff. Don't just go pick random things that you want to up level. That's what's happening a lot in the, I think, in the personal development industry. You go through all of this and you're just picking things that they are important, but they're not a priority and they are not aligned to your vision. And then you're like, well, this none of this works. You're probably going into coaching programs, but that was part of my rant. They're not real coaching programs. They're really like trainings. They're really trainings and extended workshops, really. But you're going into these things wanting a certain skill set, and that skill set that you're trying to learn has nothing to do with your vision. So when you're trying to learn it, you're like, oh, it doesn't work for me, or it's not working out for me. Why? Because it is not aligned to what you're doing and it's not what you need to be doing next. All right. So whatever you're telling yourself, let's focus on the self-esteem part, your abilities, your what you think about yourself. So if you're trying to start a business or move up in a career, it has let's let's not focus on the skill set. Let's focus on you. Maybe if you sit there long enough, you'll start thinking about some stories that either you told yourself or what other people have said to you. Remember, self-esteem is about, let me read it again. It is it refers to whether you appreciate and value yourself. It develops and changes as a result of your life experiences and interactions with others. So you have to look at your star player, your core values. How do you see yourself? Do you like yourself? Do you love yourself? Do you appreciate yourself? And we're not talking about that whole thing about self love. I'm going to do me. Let me do this. We're not talking about that. Like, do you actually like the way you look? Do you like the way you sound? Do you like to be around you? Can you entertain yourself? Like the thoughts that you're thinking, do they make you feel good? Like, who are you as a person? Now, remember, I said as believers, we get the cheat code because it's like, oh, that's who Christ said I am. I can go do that over there. But in the practical sense, like really sit down with yourself and take inventory of you. Self awareness is huge, right? And then you can get feedback from other people. And you use that. Like if a lot of people are saying the same thing about you, it's you. Now you have to decide whether you're cool with what they say about you or if you want to change that. So your self-esteem is how you see yourself. Now, it's a deeper dive into personal development where you go to those stories and you go reframe those stories. And if people say that you are always arrogant and cocky and bossy, and it's like, no, I just like things the way I want them to go. And you can put the positive spin on that, or if people say, "Oh my gosh, you talk too much." No, I just like to communicate. I just like to communicate my thoughts. Just certain things that you get to turn things around, and you don't have to own what people say about you. And I know you hear that so much, but how many of you actually take the time? And it could just be one story. I was working, did a VIP day a while ago with someone, and she wanted to start a consulting business. She didn't want to leave her career because she loved it, but she wanted to start a consulting business. And it was like, why don't you start? Like you have everything you need to start right now. And one thing when she had her doctorate degree. And one thing that she said when she was going through her program was that somebody said, "Oh, you don't look like the type to want to have an advanced degree. I always thought you just wanted to be a wife and a mother." Now, she is a wife and a mother, and I don't know how the person meant it, but she took it as, and this is what I'm saying, stories are tricky. She took it as like, well, why am I even trying to advance even more? I should be okay with just being a wife and a mother with a career. Why do I need to do something extra? So she allowed that story to make her feel guilty about wanting to do more. Now, we could be mad at the other person. She could blame the other person what she did. But when I worked with her, I was like, it took us a while to get through the root cause of that being the story. So she's telling herself, well, I should be content with what I have. I don't need to do more based on what that person says. So she created this whole narrative in her head, and she lived that way for years until we got to that point and she was like, oh my gosh, This is why I have been acting like I don't know what to do or feeling stuck. And I'm putting in quotation marks because she wasn't stuck. It was just a story that she was telling herself. So that 5%, her statistical significance, that data point that she can now track, she can go and reframe that story and stand on that story and give herself a new meaning to what that person said. What the person said doesn't change, but her response to that changes. And that is what she can control. Now that is the self-esteem part where she can start pouring back in herself and say, that's not true. That is the lie I've been telling myself, but the truth is, my truth is, and then she spoke her own truth. Now that was her self-esteem. Now the part about the self-confidence and the abilities, now we can look at, you already have a lot of the things that you need to do to start this consulting business because it's an extension of what you're already doing now. So the business aspect wasn't as hard, but she lacked confidence in that, starting a consulting business in that area because of the self-esteem was overshadowing it. I hope you're following. Let me know if that makes sense. So so she couldn't see the ability that she already had based on the story that she was telling herself. So she had to stand on top of that story, push it down and jump on it and really take it out of the way. But she had to stand on top of that so that she could see that she was confident and she already had the ability in that area. So that's what I'm asking you to. Today is going to be short because it's not that deep. There are things that you're telling yourself. There are things that I've told myself of why I couldn't do certain things, and and just the other day, I'm not gonna fully say it because I'm still processing it. But there was a situation in my life. I'm like, well, why is this happening? Why do I feel this certain way? And I literally sat for 20 minutes following this thought. Now, sometimes you don't need to be following thoughts by yourself, but I'm giving you some tools to where that you don't get stuck because sometimes you can get stuck in the thought and spiral and it causes all kind of problems. So you have to be strong enough to know yourself whether you could talk through it with a coach or if you need to talk through it with a therapist or you can coach yourself through it. Okay. So the thought, and then I followed it back to one conversation and I remember where I was. I don't remember the date, but I could see myself in the room when the person said this thing to me. And when I said, well, how am I feeling about this? And that's the thought, I connected the dots. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. And so I was able to walk myself through. I'm like, is this true? What made you feel this way? What part of that do you think why do you think that person said that? I'm like, I don't know, because then that could take me down a rabbit hole. Well, what can I tell myself about the situation now? And then how was that stopping me from doing what I need to do? Is it relevant or irrelevant? Now, it may not make sense to you. Don't drive yourself insane trying to figure out, like, I shouldn't be thinking that. And I used to do that. I'm like, I'm smart. I shouldn't be thinking this thought. Well, you're human. Okay. Is what being smart is what you do about that thought. Now, biblically, we're supposed to cast down all thoughts. As soon as it popped up, cast it down. Now, how do you cast it down? You speak the word, you speak the scripture back into your life. Let's say, because that's where you need to get some scriptures from. The practical side is, now you heard the thought, you saw the story, and you get to change your perception of that story. You get to change the ending to you. And you get to say what is true and what's not true. And then you make the decision to move forward. See, I just helped you. I either saved you a lot of money in coaching or a lot of money in therapy. But real talk. So you look at this and what are you trying to you do this with everything you're trying to up level in your life. Now, as far as the self-confidence side, you might be thinking like, well, I love myself. I have this healthy view of myself, but I'm struggling with this area in my business or in my career, or I'll just stick with business and career. Now, this is the part where a lot of people try to overcompensate for it instead of doing what they need to do. You might need to learn another skill set. This is where you invest in and I'm putting coaching in quotes because it's really facilitation and training and development. Coaching, I have to do my rant. So you really need to invest with somebody that can teach you an actual skill set. When you hear lifelong learner a lot, lifelong learner means lifelong learning about the thing you need to learn to get to the next level. That's part of your big vision. If you want to learn about If you have this vision about being in real estate, then why are you investing so heavily in learning, trying to write a book right now? I think writing a book is important, but your book should be about something in real estate or something, similar. And then you should be learning from someone who knows real estate. Now, here's the other part. Don't A lot of people say go to the top, go to the best. And there's a part there, yes, but there's a caveat to it. You have to go to where it makes more sense for you, to where it's going to stretch you and not stress you. So there is I'm not going to name any names, so I don't know any of his like smaller programs, but there's a big real estate person out there. If you know what I'm talking about, I'll hint 10x dude. And he really talks a big game in real estate. And so many people like go and invest with him and learn from him. And then you'll hear stories that, oh my gosh, he just took my money. I couldn't learn from here, X, Y, and Z. This man has like, I think he owns like massive amount of commercial buildings. Well, you're not there yet. You don't even have your first rental property. So he may not be the one for you. And that's the thing. Like sometimes you gotta know when to go big and when to just go next, right? So you do stretch yourself. So I'm not saying that, you learn from someone who only just bought one property, right? Maybe they got a few, but they don't have this massive portfolio, but they're further ahead than you are because they're closer to being able to teach you and possibly coach you through what's happening and helping you manage your mind. So that's something to look at. That's a skill set that you need to learn how to develop, the ins and outs of not, it's just not having the money to go buy the property, some other things in there. You can do that for anything in business. Business is such a broad category, and so many people go into that because you have people say, well, hey, monetize your message and things like that. Well, what is the business side of monetizing your message? Do you even know what your message is? Do you even know what is stopping you, why you got that message? And then on the business side of that, do you know anything about marketing or sales or getting leads and making offers? Do you have a system in place? Those are the skill sets. So if you're struggling, it's a skill that you need to learn. You're not confident in that area because you don't have the skill, or the skill is not where it needs to be, or you don't believe enough in that skill or your ability to do that skill. So those are the things that you can do on your own. That's the 5% of your statistical significance. And that is how you stand on your story. Big vision. What do you then the goals? Then what are you telling yourself as to why you can accomplish those things? You go handle those stories. You go find that root part of that story. You dig out that root, tell yourself a new story, and then how does that story relate to your ability and your skill set to do something to accomplish it? So there are a lot of people who are saying that they can't do something. Well, first, is it you yourself, where you don't believe in yourself, that you have this low view of your values and your self-worth? That is something you have to work on. Then you have to say, well, if it's like, no, I feel really good about myself, then it's like, well, look at the skill set. You can have one without the other, but you need both if you really want to quantum leap, like everyone is talking about. You have to work on that 5% of the things you can't control. You don't, and here's the thing, you don't have to go and find the root cause of every single story. Some of them is just like, oh, that doesn't make sense. You cast that down immediately. But the ones that are like really spiraling in your head, and it really has a stronghold on you, that's the one you focus on. You don't have to be a whole and complete, like you don't have to be a person without issues to get to the level that you desire. It's just you start minimizing the issues, you start minimizing, and then when things come up, you don't dwell on them any longer, because you're going to always have thoughts. And that's something that I don't think a lot of people realize. Every time you go up a notch, you're going to have some thoughts. Now, if you're a believer, Satan doesn't have anything new. He just magnifies something that's already there, right? So you might say, I thought I worked on this. You did, but you didn't work on it at this level. Then that should give you the confidence in your ability to be able to overcome it. But we're so blinded by things, and we sometimes that we think we have to start all the way from zero, and that's not the case. So if you start working on understanding what stories you're telling yourself, how much you value yourself, and really understand what self-esteem is, and then focus on the skill sets that you can learn, and then trust in your abilities to do those things, then when life hits you, because you will get knocked down again, if you're on the 70th floor, when life comes, either you go down to the 50th floor, or you may go to the 60th floor, or even the 65th floor. Our job, while we're focusing on the statistical significance of what we can control, these key data points in this area, our goal is to make sure that's so tight so that we don't fall back down to zero, because it is harder to climb from 0 to 70 than it is from 50 to 70 or 60 to 70. And whether you're at level 100, there's always another level to go, while you're still living and breathing here on this planet. All right. So just to recap, understand that there's a difference between self-esteem and self-confidence. And then you have to understand the story that you are telling yourself in whatever category of your life that you are focusing on to up level. Um, you don't have to be a 10 in every single area. And I would advise you not to only focus on the areas that you score low in, because they're important, but they may not be a priority right now for your vision, right? And then make sure you understand that you are in control of how you view the story, even as painful as it can be. You are in control on how you reframe that story and how you show up for yourself. This is You don't always have to go back to the person and understand why they said what they said or did what they did. You are in control of your 5%. All right. So let me know what you're going to do, the action steps that you're going to take. I suggest you go back, whatever your vision is, go see what characteristics does that person have, what's important to them, how do they see themselves, what is their self-image, their self-worth, telling themselves. If you don't have that, go adopt that. If it's challenging for you, go figure out what stories you're telling yourself about that. Then go look at the skill set that this person or this group of people have. What don't you have? That's why you're not confident, because you need to learn something. If you figured out that you have to learn it, now you have to believe in the skill set that you already have. All right. So that's all that we talked about for today. Today is shorter because I actually want you to do that, because it may take a while for you to go through the story. Now, if you like what you heard on YouTube, if you like this vibe, go ahead and subscribe. Instagram, you can go ahead and give me a like and a follow as well. And if you are interested, tomorrow, September 10th, I am hosting a workshop. I'm doing a series of these. So this is the second one. And in order for you to come to the workshop, two ways. Now, I invite you to go through my 3-hour virtual event where I have experts coming in talking about how to move from resume to reinvention to remarkable, how to shift from an employee mindset to an entrepreneurial way of thinking with ease. It is all pre-recorded. It's over 3 days that'll be sent to your inbox, and you can watch it and take notes. Now, if you go through that, you don't have to go through that all before if you want to show up on the 10th, but you still have access to that. And if you up level to be a VIP or next level attendee, you get some extra bonuses, a workbook. Of course, you have the recordings, but also an extended workshop with me. This workshop is not like one of those webinars or an event. It is a curated workshop based on the things that you've heard, so that I can help you put a plan together in place with all the information that you have gathered, because we tend to get so much information, but we don't have the implementation strategy. And that's what I want to assist you with. It is a curated workshop. You do fill out a form so that it is geared and focused on your needs and desires. All right. So you drive the workshop. I'm just there to help you facilitate and organize your plan, whether you want to come with me moving forward or you want to go someone else. At least you're not starting from ground zero. So we'll do a series of that. If you miss it on the 10th, I still suggest that you sign up to become a VIP next level attendee, and then you'll see all the other dates. Now, you're like, you know what? I don't want to go through that. I just want to just jump right into the workshop. There will be a link there for you to do that as well. It just be a difference in price, because that's just, if you want faster results, you just pay more. But they're all under $100, so it's not even a lot. I think the first one is 67 and the other one is $97. So based on if you are trying to work with me, you want a laser session with me for a whole hour of a time, that is $5,000 to work with me directly for an hour, focused, concentrated on you with plans, results, and things like that. So coming to a workshop, no, you don't even have to think about it. All right. So thank you so much for listening and learning with me. That information will be down below, and stay tuned for our next lesson, which I can tell you because I have a lesson plan. Our next one, we are talking about self mastery is service. So stay tuned and remember, September is significant. I'll see you all on the other side.